What's up? Why Shadow over here? Thought I'd make a little horror movie related video today because it's been a minute, a mile and a minute. It's been a while. What you see here is my hard copy horror collection. I have a lot of downloaded movies too, man, thousands upon thousands. So what I buy is hard copies on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff like that. That's just the essentials, the ones I know I'm gonna rewatch. Or if they're hard to get online at all, like the Dark Shadows box set over there. Beautiful. I still haven't seen the complete series though, man, because there's so many episodes. Went on for years and years in the US, that one. But what I'm going to talk about today, anyway, is how I got into horror movies in the first place. I've been a horror movie fan since I was like 5 years old. And it started with the classic Universal Monsters. I got the box set up here with all the original Universal Monster movies. Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera, and the one that scared me to death when I was just 5 years old, the creature from the Black Lagoon. Actually, the third movie in that series called The Creature Walks Among Us. I was at some relatives' house, some family's house, and we're just chilling. And they had like an old Super 8 millimeter movie viewer, the kind used for home entertainment before video came along and everything. This was back in the mid 70s, and they had a bunch of movies. So we figured we'd watch them just to have some fun. And they had one horror movie, and they were like, "Yeah, this is what we got to see." But my parents were like, "No, I don't know, man. He's just 5 years old. I don't know if he can be able to take it." But I was like, "Yo, yeah, I want to watch it. I want to watch it. I want to watch it." Because of course, I read about horror movies, and I've seen photos of the Universal monsters before and everything. But I didn't really know what hit me, man, because the creature from the Black Lagoon here, he scared the living daylights out of me. I probably had to sleep with the lights on for a couple of weeks after, and some scenes in the movie he has like a bandage over his head, and I was petrified for that for years, man, when I was a kid, because of that. But also, strangely enough, it made me a horror movie fan, a horror movie fanatic for life. It's weird like that when you get scared, and when you're a kid and it's kind of illegal, your parents tell you to not to watch it because this is too scary for you. It's funny like that because then it becomes a whole lot more exciting and fun for the kids, and that's the way it was for me. And but I never stopped. I kept on being a horror movie fan for life, and dug deeper and deeper into it as far as movies and actors and directors and composers, and everyone who's who were making the horror movies. Anyway, from like the Super 8 millimeter ones, I have a few others as well, like Jaws. That's one I have like a very short edited version of. I go get it, but yeah, it's in another room right now. I don't really want to move because of the film. I just want to do this live today and kick back and chill a little bit. So, but that version is like roughly 10 minutes long. I mean, a 10-minute edit that actually works well, where you actually get the whole plot and the best scenes from a movie that lasts over 2 hours. They did a good job with those short Super 8 edits back in the day, actually. But of course, it was fun to see the full movie too later. So we had a few of those. My dad had that, and we watched them all the time. We used to watch that if we didn't have like a wall to watch it on. We would watch it on the fridge because it became really small. So the smaller it was, the picture was, the sharper it got. But anyway, come the early 80s, and of course the VCR, the video machines started coming along. Like in the beginning, they were very expensive. I hardly knew anyone who had them. Maybe like two or three families, at my school that had kids in my school that actually had a VCR in the very, very beginning. Like I'm talking 1980 now. That's when it came to town here, 1980. They started selling VCRs, and they cost about the early VCRs. They cost about, I guess, over over like $1,000 to buy, and you couldn't rent movies either back then. You had to buy them, so they were like roughly $100 per movie. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't even have proper covers. It was just white covers, VHS covers, big boxes, no labels, no titles on them, nothing. This was like the earliest days when video first came to Norway. And of course, there was three systems. You had Betamax, you had Video 2000, and you had VHS. Now, I sweated my parents to buy that, but of course they were like, "No, it's way too expensive. We're not going to do that." You know, 'cause I really wanted that. I was already a big movie fan and everything. Went to the cinema, the theaters a lot, and watched whatever I could. But I was still young. I was like 10 years old, so you couldn't get into the real fun movies that you wanted to see, right? I mean, it was at the point where I had to sneak in to watch the first Star Wars movie, the one that's called A New Hope now, me and a friend, they went along with my mom, just so we could get in, you know what I'm saying? And we did, and that was like a big epic thing back then, just to see Star Wars in a theater at like age 10, 11, because you had to be over 12 actually in Norway to watch Star Wars. But that was a one-off. We had to wait for years after that before we could see like movies for adults, movies that are labeled restricted in the U.S. Or even PG. There's no PG in Norway. You had like you had certain ages that you had to be above that age to get into the to watch the various movies. Like I think it was about above 5 and 7 and 12 and 16, and then it was 18. That was like the Norwegian restricted, and that was like only the illest horror movies, the most violent action movies and stuff like that that got an 18 rating. And of course, a lot of films were banned too by the censor in Norway, by the censors. But my mom, rest in power, she was lucky in the early 80s. This was like 1982. She hit up a lottery where the first prize was a Video 2000 VCR. She bought one ticket randomly, just like that, and she won it. So that was it. Finally, it was like Christmas, birthday, and every other holiday at the same time for me, because finally, on a summer day, on a Friday in 1982, we were gonna get a VCR. So, I've been to the local video store. There was like one of them back then, and they had like for Video 2000, they had like this big suitcase, like a gray old suitcase, all busted up and everything, and inside it was like 30 movies that you could rent. That was it. But they switched it every month, so they returned it to some distributor or something, and then they got the suitcase back with 30 new titles. So in this town, we had 30 movies to pick from every month, like that. And of course, some of the titles they came back too. It was like it was like 30 brand new movies every freaking month. It wasn't like that. But anyway, it was enough for us kids, to get excited about it. They had a lot of action movies. They had like a lot of martial arts movies, like Bruce Lee and stuff like that. And of course, some of the Shaolin movies and all that. They had like blaxploitation movies like Black Caesar and Slaughter's Big Ripoff, Foxy Brown, Coffee, Truck Turner, Three Tough Guys, those kind of flicks. A lot of sex comedies too back then. They pretty much got banned all over the place later because they didn't want sex mixed with comedy that way. But they were pretty much hardcore porn, but with comedy on top. So we could rent some of those, and just a few titles that were like blockbuster titles that were like big, well-known movies. There wasn't too many of those, and of course, a lot of Italian exploitation films, like action films and spaghetti westerns, and some horror movies too. So of course, I hung out at a video store, and for weeks, when I knew she'd won the lottery, it still took a few weeks before we got the VCR in the house. So I picked those couple of weeks just going in their video store every day, just going through the titles and picking what I wanted to see. I heard that the most scary horror movie they had there was a title named The Devil's Rain. So that was naturally my first pick. So on the day we got the VCR, we rented that and the classic Hammer movie, Frankenstein, the Monster from Hell. Now that one was cool, but The Devil's Rain was the really ill shit. Now I got it here on Blu-ray nowadays. Had it on DVD before that, but sold that to a friend anyway. The Devil's Rain here, of course, with Ernest Borgnine as the evil one himself. I used some footage for this to promote one of my albums back in the days. I'm pretty sure it was the 666 album, where Ernest or the devil jumps out of the pit and everything like that. You can, I don't know, I think it got banned by YouTube after a while, so I don't know if it's there anymore. You can check it out anyway. 666 album preview to White Shadow. Here he is right there. So yeah, man, some of this was filmed at the actual Church of Satan, you know, Anton LaVey's Church of Satan in San Francisco, I believe. And he's in the movie as well. He's got a cameo in it, Anton LaVey. So, you know, it was pretty much as real as it got. I mean, I didn't know about that shit back then, man. I just wanted an ill horror movie. And it is. I probably like this better than most people. I think this is like a top-notch horror movie because I have such great memories of it being the first that we rented. And of course, I had a friend of mine sleep over as well, and we watched it all night. And the whole weekend you could rent them for like the weekend. So I watched it again and again and again, man. The Devil's Rain, that was like the first hardcore, more hardcore anyway. It's not among the worst, like, or most violent movies or anything, but it was like the first hardcore horror movie I ever saw, The Devil's Rain. So it's got a special place in my horror infected heart, man. I'm gonna put the camera down just for a sec while I put the movies back in. Okay, I'm gonna try talking to you so it doesn't become too boring in the meantime. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch so that my cell phone doesn't fall to the floor here. We do not want that to happen now, do we? Hell no. Anyway, yeah, man, you could rent horror movies there, and of course, I rented everything they got, and we also rented James Bond movies as they came along around 1983 when For Your Eyes Only came out. That was actually the first James Bond movie I watched, and they had some other titles too. James Bond movies were hard to get on VHS in the beginning, but they had some like Dutch imports from Holland. That was like the first ones with the original cover artworks for the James Bond movies, and but they were all like yellow and black, kind of like a bad print or something like that. They were in bootlegs, I think. I'm actually not sure, but we can get a couple of those. I think it was like Thunderbolt and Diamonds Are Forever or something like that. Um, but then anyway, of course, the video nasty thing happened in the UK, which was, I mean, you can look it up on YouTube or Google it or whatever, but if you're a horror movie fan, you're that's well known to you. You're well aware of the video nasties there in the UK, where religious fanatics and politicians and everything, they try to stop horror movies, really, or any horror movies with a bit of violent content in them. Uh, I mean, you had top tier politicians telling people that they were dangerous to watch for the kids, that they would ruin kids' lives and turn them into psychos and stuff like that. And some even claimed that that they were dangerous to animals, that even dogs, could get psycho from watching these violent horror movies. And of course, one of the most very infamous ones, and the first really infamous one, was the Italian Cannibal Holocaust. Rest in peace to its director, Ruggero Deodato. I'm not going to go into detail on that one today, but that was one of those violent horror movies that they warned about on Norwegian TV as well. In the aftermath of the video nasties there in the UK, because that spread like all over Europe and Scandinavia. So they were talking about on TV. They showed a few short clips on the movies, and that only wanted us kids to watch them more. Then in Sweden they had like a special on video nasties, or video violence as we called it out here, and they had interviewed some kids at a school, right? Who claimed to have seen those movies, but many years later, think it was like 30 years later, the same kids that they did a TV special on the same kids that were in the first one, and they admitted to having been bribed by the TV company with free dinner at McDonald's if they, you know, if they went on screen and said that those horror movies, those video nasties, scared them to death and they couldn't sleep at night for weeks and everything like that. So, what was that really about? I think it was more about business out of control, that the powers to be they lost control because video stores popped up everywhere and they made big money, and you know tax evasions and stuff like that. I think that's what it was about. I think they really were that worried about people going crazy from seeing violent horror movies. Most people didn't. Some did, but they probably would have gone psycho regardless if they watched those movies or not. Anyway, it was hard to get those video nasties out here. I'm from Norway, from a small town, so I didn't live in the city and stuff like that, which made it even harder to get. But we heard about some people around town who had them, but they were like older kids. We couldn't just really hit them up and say, "Yo, can we borrow Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Cannibal Holocaust?" Because they would just be like, "Fuck you, kid, get the fuck out of here." But an older kid, a friend of mine, later he I think he copied some music videos off me or something, and he asked me if I wanted to borrow some movies because he had like a bunch of VHS movies at home. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, man." So I went to his home and to his basement where he had all the movies, and to my big surprise, it was like almost all horror movies and video nasties down there. Some originals too. So my eyes almost popped out of my head, you know what I mean? Because he had like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he had Toby Hooper's Death Trap as well, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, he had Alien, Shivers, The Thing, Halloween 1 and 2. The Omen. I didn't really know where to start or where to end, so I just I borrowed everything he had, you know. And yeah, I'd go through it, man, because I mean, I'll see how long it will take me to find some of those movies. But anyway, you got Halloween 1 and 2 there. They were among them. And let me see. Here you have a Cronenberg collection that's got Shivers on it. And what else over here? Let me see if I can find the other ones that I borrowed from him anyway. A friend of mine had a VHS player. I only had Video 2000. Those Video Nasties that I got from my older friend, they were all on VHS. So I had to spend the night at my friend's house. But his dad, he confiscated my bag with all the movies, put it beside his bed. So that was it. We couldn't watch them anyway. But we snuck up at night, quiet as all hell, and grabbed the bag on a deal down to the pit or the basement, and then we could watch those horror movies. So we sat up all night, watch them. You know what I'm saying? That's the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Death Trap and Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and all those movies there. No sleep that night at all. That was the first time for me where I didn't sleep at all that night. Anyway, here you got the classic Night of the Living Dead over here. And let me see where I got the other ones. I got some only on DVD here as well. Anyway, Dawn of the Dead is down here, and I guess Alien is up here. I got a Alien Trilogy Blu-ray version there, and trying to find Death Trap. It's around here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. It's also called Eaten Alive, but out in Norway it was called Death Trap. So yeah, we had a full night of enjoyment, and of course, like the most infamous title was this one. That's the one they talked about on TV as being like one of the worst video nasties. But of course, there's hardly any violence at all. It's pretty much off screen. But it's funny with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because you think you see all this gruesome, horrible killings and everything like that, and chopping with chainsaw. But it was just like a small scene at the end of the movie where Leatherface, the killer here, chops himself in the leg with a chainsaw. So that was a genius way to make it actually, and get it easily through the sensors and everything. But anyway, this was a big deal, the one that everyone wanted to see because of its title, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's self-explanatory, you know, it speaks for itself that that had to be a really, really crazy ass video nasty, and it is crazy, but not that violent. Anyway, I'm the White Shot of Norway. I think I'll call it a day here. It's about 20 minutes now. Hope you enjoyed this video about my early days of how I got into horror movies. Catch you later on some other horror shit and some DJ shit and some hip hop shit. You know how I do. Okay, White Shot of Norway, and I'm out of here. Peace.